Hey guys, it's been, I don't know, like a month and a half, and I think it's time to do an update on Nest Assets, the whole ecosystem campaign, the airdrop thing, what's going on. There have been some updates, we know more, and certainly there's some yields. So let's just dive right in and talk about it. I want to hit the high level stuff first, like what is going on with the campaign. And as a reminder, Plume is airdropping or giving 1% of their total token supply to Nest users, Nest points farmers, PNP points farmers. This is going to happen in March, which is not too far away, and we have new information. So before, I've done some sort of math on that prior, but now we have actual claim mechanics, which is great. Fairly simple to understand. We have instant claim where you just get a 60% haircut. That's like, you just want your tokens now as soon as you can claim them in March. Then there's vesting and earning where you still get 40% of those tokens, but they're in a vesting contract, and it vests linearly to 100% over 6 months. Now let's just say you waited 3 months and then you claimed. Well, you get that 40% plus half of the 60, so you'd end up with 70% of your total claim after 3 months. So just 40% upfront plus 6 month linear vesting, and then you can claim whenever. But when you do claim, then the vesting ends and you get whatever you were entitled to. You don't get the 40%. You start off at 40% vested. Okay, and then boosted vest and earn. This one's kind of confusing. My understanding of this is that Nest is going to have their own campaign, and you can choose to convert your PNP points, your Plume Nest points, into Nest points for Nest's token if they ever have one. And if you wanted to do that and get like a boosted exposure to that, then you could. The reason why you might do that is because Nest is like the flagship protocol of Plume's ecosystem. Nest is already multi-chain. It's on ETH mainnet, as an example, might be going to some other ecosystems soon. And you might be wanting to take like a longer bet specifically on Nest, whereas maybe you're not as excited about Plume, or maybe you like Plume, but you're just super excited about the future of Nest. I don't know. But that's just my understanding of the boosted vest and earn. Also, there's a vest, maybe get a boosted allocation in select future tokens. There we go. Yeah, that's Nest, launched in the Plume and Nest ecosystem. Yeah. Okay, cool. Now, one of the other things you have to know that I learned in the past month is that the multipliers are not your typical multiplier. So a 5x app boost is not getting 5 times more points than a 1x. 8x is not getting 8x more points than a 1x. 10x, likewise. They're all actually very, very close to what they're getting in terms of points. The way it actually works is mathematically kind of complex. It's 0.01 times the boost times the base rate APR they're giving out in tokens plus the base rate APR they're giving out in tokens, which effectively just gets you to a very small divergence between a 1x multiplier and a 10x multiplier. It might be like 6% is the base rate, 10x points gets you 7.5 to 8%, right? Not a huge difference between 6% and 8% in implied yield being added. So the detriment of that is that, like, if you thought you were getting 10 times the amount of points as someone who was just holding an asset on Pendle, you're not. The upside of this is that if you do a little bit of math to see, what the yield should be, the average APR, well, then no matter what you do, you should be kind of around that APY. So that's kind of cool. And that's kind of the math that I've been doing. And I like that because then it's not like Pendle is absorbing all of these points and nothing except for Pendle is really what you want to be doing. It's kind of like you get a lot of different choices. And if you want a slight edge, then Pendle's where you would go. So let's actually look at that math real quick. So the cool thing is it's a Plume airdrop. It's a Plume campaign. We know what Plume is valued at. Plume has roughly a $200 million FDV. So a 1% airdrop is $2 million. There's currently $40 million of participating TVL. That means the average user, if they vested, would get a 5% ROI, right? Now, 5% ROI for 4 months of farming, you can annualize that and get 15%, right? 4 months is, you have 3 4 months periods per year. So multiply by 3, 15%. If you just took the haircut, took the 60% haircut, you end up with 6%. So a 6% immediate APR realized after in March. If you wanted to go that route, of course, if you vested, then you get the 15%. And that's kind of like what I'm looking at. So it's a 6-month vest, but you can exit whenever you want. I would probably start with the vesting, and then like if I wanted to exit early, I just would. So that's where my head is at. Now, in terms of the actual assets and actual things you can chuck money into, my bias has always been Nest Basis. One, because I understand the basis trade. It's Superstate. I like Superstate. I think Robert Leshner does a great job with it. It's like institutional grade. That's yeah. And like there's nothing about this that is a red flag for me. It's just wrapped superstate USDC and wrapped superstate USTB. So I like this one. It gets a fairly decent base APR of like 5 point something percent. Yeah, let's just see base rate 5.33%. And then it actually gets a multiplier on these things. So you're not getting the lowest multiplier, you're getting like 2x. And then if you take it and do anything with it, you're getting an even higher multiplier. So if you chucked it onto Morpho or Rooster or Mystic, which is just another front end for Morpho or Pendle, then you can get even more. And you're not really exposed to potential loss. Now, if you look at some of these other ones, like Nest Institutional or Trill Treasury, just T-bill. So Treasury is another good one, right? If you just wanted to go into like a T-bill yield, that's kind of cool. They're clearly incentivizing Wisdom Tree credit. Now, I don't hate these, but one thing I want to say about private credit is that with private credit, sometimes the NAV of these can go down. Why? Well, because it's literally lending out uncollateralized or unsecured loans to Wisdom Tree. Wisdom Tree, multi-billion-dollar institution, but if the loans that Wisdom Tree is giving us, this is a wrapped version of Wisdom Tree's unsecured loans to borrowers. If any of those loans default, now all of a sudden CRDYX goes down in value. So those can go down in value. They typically go up, but sometimes they go down. And so I consider these a little bit, these are not the same as like USDE or SUSDE, which is, you would anticipate it only to go up and to the right because one, it has T-bills as a fallback yield, and two, it's the basis trade, right? And they can just hop out of the basis trade if it goes negative and fall back onto the T-bills. So just be mindful that when you're dealing with private credit, it's not always only just up and to the right. And yeah, and so then they have Apollo. Apollo is also one of these gigantic institutions. They're going to have like Hamilton Lane soon. Maybe you like Scope more than you like private credit or CLOs. And Black Opal, which is also, I think, part of institutional, that is doing effectively, they're doing payments. So, I mean, Nest is an RWA platform. They really want to lean into the RWA narrative. Here, yeah, so Brazilian credit card receivables structured with DeFi protocols. So plus counterparty repayment system with zero default track record is pretty good. I'd obviously still look into it more. These are not my forte. Again, I understand the basis trade. That's why I would happily go into basis. I understand T-bills. I'd happily go into Nest Treasury. I know how private credit tends to function, and I'd like track the value of CRDYX. So I am comfortable knowing CRDYX. I might not go into it, but at least I understand it. Some of the other ones with payment systems, I don't understand well enough to jump in quite yet. So if you wanted to do like Nest basis, I think it's interesting because my average APRs here are like 15% if you vest, 6% if you don't vest. And if you go to Pendle, it's valuing the points, the highest points multiplier you can get at 3.5% additional yield to the base, right? So N basis has a base rate of around 5%. Maybe it's like, I don't know, let's go see what it is right now. So Pendle tracks this, which is kind of cool. So the base rate is, they must be pulling this from somewhere else. Or maybe this is brand new. I don't know. The base rate tends to be around 5%. I don't know how they're getting this 15% number. But anyways, the base rate tends not to be that high. It's around 5%. But the difference between the base rate and the IY is kind of what the market is estimating the airdrop at. And so here it would be roughly 6%. Now it's a very small arbitrage, something around like 3%. And I think it could be undervalued, right? If I might be a YT. I might be more interested in the YT here than the PT, because the YTs get you all of the N basis exposure, so whatever N basis is yielding, plus it gets you the highest possible exposure to that airdrop. Granted, I don't know if you can hedge Plume. Maybe you can. I haven't really checked, but I guess that's like one vertical is like you might not want to be super exposed to the price action of Plume, and even hedging things for a long time. It can be dangerous, right? Some people can hedge, and then of course you get blown out by crazy price action. So there are a few other places you can do stuff. One of them is Morpho. So if you go to explore chains, it'll pop up as Plume, and then Mystic is the front end, which if you want to see that, you can. Most of the assets are actually over there. So N basis, you can collateralize and borrow against it. And Alpha, same thing, you can collateralize, borrow against it. NT bill, not much liquidity, but a great borrow rate, and and so on and so forth. So there's not a ton of liquidity. The only ones that are really liquidity for is N basis, and borrowing at 6.21% is really an airdrop play. You're kind of saying, okay, well, I think that I can get this really good airdrop, or like Plume tokens drop to me that will exceed my base collateral yield enough to make it worth borrowing at a 6.21% rate. But it seems like a negative carry starting off. If like you're actual collateral yield is 5%, and your 10x leverage against a 6% borrow cost, I think it's like negative 5% would be your net. And then you're hoping that you're getting like 10x times this, so another 150% that is mitigated. So you get like 140%, right? Now, that's if you want to make that bet. I don't like that as much as I like things where I'm getting positive organic yield plus points. I want to be winning and then win more later. So, Rooster is a liquidity provision platform where you can do pretty well. So you can, LP, N basis, PUSD. This was higher before. I mean, it's around 8% plus all those points. That's pretty good to me. And you're also getting Rooster points. I don't know if those will precipitate into any big airdrop, but at least it exists. And of course, there's a few other LPs. And then of course, like Pendle is really the place to be if you want to, if you don't want to, like if you want to participate in the yield and don't want to give up the points, go LP it. I mean, the base rate, what is the base rate here? Base rate is probably something like 15.1. I mean, you can go get 15% on this, not give up the points. I don't know why you wouldn't do. I mean, obviously make your own decisions and all that, but that to me might be the play, right? So anyways, that's Plume. That's what I'm seeing. Those are all the updates that I can think of. If you guys have any questions, comments, anything, just comment down below. It is a breath of fresh air whenever a human comments on anything that I do anymore. There's so many AI bots out there that I feel like humans really need to step up their commenting game to fight the demoralizing amount of robot content that we see on Twitter. So thank you guys so much for watching. Full disclosure, I am an ambassador for Plume, helping them push or get visibility on this specific campaign. So just do keep that in mind. Thank you for watching and have a wonderful rest of your day.